Hi everyone, course code is MMPC001. Course title is Management Functions and Organizational Processes. Assignment code MMPC001 PMA July 2023. Coverage all blocks. Note: attempt all the questions and submit this assignment to the coordinator of your study center. Last date of the submission for July 2023 session is 31st October 2023, and for July 2024 session is 30th April 2024. Now this contains 5 questions, and this PDF is of 12 pages. First question is: what is the meaning and definition of management, and describe characteristics? How does management differ from administration, and discuss the challenge faced by the management? Okay, this question, the meaning and definition of this question is: it is possible to think of management as an activity that it results and goal oriented. Management is defined by the interaction with others in the completion of the task. Since an organization is embedded with groups of individuals working together towards a purpose, Mary Parker Foletus stated that management is the art of getting things done through the efforts of others. In this context, this theme was expanded upon by Gerard Nottings and O'Donnell when they included the organizing group, even though it still refers to the completion of the work and people dimensions. They assert that management is the process of achieving goals through the coordinated group efforts. F. W. Taylor defined management as the art of knowing what you want to do in the best and cheapest way. In spite of various definitions, the dynamic nature of management makes it difficult to have a universally accepted definition encompassing all its dimensions in its entirety. Characteristics of management of a group activity. Individual efforts alone don't ensure success because organizations reflect the social dimensions where people interact with one another to accomplish tasks. Additionally, management requires collaborative work because it cannot be done alone. Thus, management is understood to be the integration of individual efforts through planned group activity. Management is universal in its application. Government, commercial companies, educational institutes, military institutes, healthcare facilities, and non governmental organizations are all subject to management. Henry Feuer and German industrial psychologists proposed self of management principles that are seen as guiding principles that can be applied to certain organizational contexts. Management is a continuous activity. Management is dynamic in nature and hence is continuous. The ever-changing organizational activity provides continuity to management function. Management as an integrated effort. The process of management integrates the human and other resources in the achievement of the objectives of the organization. In the process, the individual goals and organizational goals get aligned for effective functioning of the organization. Management as well defined process. Management is considered unique because of the well defined and clear cut process of getting things done through the various functions of management. Management object driven and result oriented. Organizations have clearly marked objectives and goals, the accomplishment of which is systematically driven by the management function. Management has a set of rules and skills. It refers to an individual or a group of individuals who are actively involved in managing functions. The individuals designated managers and the group of management. The man, the managers are expected to learn the managing skills to perform their managing roles effectively. Management as a function. The management process is characterized by the functions that the manager performs. They are planning, organizing, staffing, directing, coordinating, controlling, and budgeting. Management as a discipline. The management as a discipline refers to a body of knowledge with unique pedagogical tools are as taught in various educational institutions. To impart the basic concepts and principles relating to the practice of management, its importance is demonstrated by the glut on the growth of B school across the globe and in India and the way it enjoys a prominent place in popular perception. Management is difficult from administration. How it is difficult, let's see. To convey the fundamental concepts and principles linked to the practice of management, management is a discipline that refers to a body of knowledge with distinctive pedagogical techniques. The proliferation of these schools in India and other countries, as well as their prominence in the public's respective perspective, serve as evidence of their significance. The role of administration, according to them, is policy formulation, while the managers implement the policy and get involved in the day to day operations. The British school of thought argues that management is superior to administration. The focus of administration is on the immediate problems, while the management focuses on the long term objectives. They maintain that management involves itself in the rule making, rule enforcing, while administration engages itself with the situation of hand. They contend that management is a broad notion of which administration is a subset. Modern thought, however, equates management and administration. K. Davis concurs with this viewpoint. He holds that the management process is essentially the same in all organizations, necessitating the same method for management and administration, which keeps them unchanged. Herodotus upheld the same position by claiming that drawing a distinction between the two would be deceptive. Modern thinkers have distinguished the two by drawing a line between them and making them separate from one another. Challenge faced by management. Globalization. Many economies have embraced liberalization, globalization, and privatization, that is LPG, which assumes that the economies are signatories and adhere to the trade regulations established by international organizations like the World Trade Organization and the International Labour Organization, as well as familiar organizations that the economies form at the regional level like the European Union, South Asian Association for the Regional Cooperation, etc. It discusses how cross border trade in commodities and services, technology, flows of investment, information, and communication have led to the interconnectedness of economies, culture, and people. The integration of culture, politics, and economics around the globe is a result of this connection between individuals and business. Since business could be conducted internationally, management has to take care of the communication challenge, people related challenge, and business related challenge. Technologies. Globalization has had huge impact on technology and technical advancements. Every industry has been transformed by technology, which simultaneously makes things more difficult and opens up new possibilities. The communication style, information content, and knowledge that is generated, stored, and accessible for organizational use are all impacted by how quickly technology advancements occur. The hardware and software in relation to a computer or other consumables like keyboards, display, mice, the CPU, and other pieces have been considered modifications as seen by the world. Even in terms of music, we have come a long way from a tape recorder to an audio cassette to a CD to a stage where currently music is embedded in the mobile phone itself. We also hear that Google search can be done in more than 100 language. Technology is important to business because it serves as a marketplace, a means for manufacturing goods and services, a communication medium, a distribution channel, information service, etc. Workforce diversity. In English, diversity refers to variety. Workshop diversity. In English, diversity refers to a variety When there are a wide range of demographic, cultural, and personal distinctions among the employees, an organization is said to be diverse. Diversity benefits business by assisting them in luring and keeping talented employees. Companies that value diversity recruit better and more advanced job candidates. According to the Vice President of Diversity and Inclusion at PepsiCo, diversity is now more about making heads count than it is about counting heads. While having a diverse staff has its benefits such as experience, insight, and innovation, managing a diverse workshop also presents difficulties. Innovation. The introduction of novel products and services is innovation. Companies must innovate if they want to make changes to their products and services and remain competitive. Innovation then becomes essential for promoting products or meeting customer demands. Since the widespread introduction of economics, innovation has permeated all aspects of society and emerged as a crucial component of corporate success. Marketing and sales have to be innovative to be competitive in a circumstances like the pandemic, where all the traditional distribution methods has been changed to draw customers directly. Ethics and governance. Due to the introduction of the idea of business without borders, companies can now operate anywhere in the world. Business management demands scrupulous adherence to professional business ethics, understanding local laws, policies, and processes as well as culture, societal, and individual expectations of moral behavior are prerequisites for effective governance. As a result, adherence to the business ethical code of conduct becomes a top priority for all managers. Now, the second question is briefly describe the nature of planning process and its necessity for an organization. Explain different types of planning and their requirements. Nature of planning process, a cognitive process. Planning is a highly intellectual process, making it cognitive. It takes creative thinking to use the resources that are already accessible to take advantage of the opportunities that are present in this managing role. An organization that neglects to research today's opportunity and fails to capitalize on its profitability in a timely manner risk turning the possibility into a problem. Functions like what, how, when, and by whom are part of management planning. Planning versus forecasting. Many times, planning and forecasting seem to be similar to each other, though they are common to each other to some extent, yet they hold a greater degree of differences. Forecasting refers to what is expected to happen if there are no way out to escape. Whereas planning is about what one wants to happen, forecasting leads to planning. Planning is the accomplishment of group objectives. All organization operates with the joint efforts of a various individuals with varied personalities, skill, attitudes, learning, and motivation. These varied individuals with varied beliefs and personality make a cohesive group that operates harmoniously to achieve organizational goals. Thus, planning involves achieving the objective and individual keeping group and organizational objective in mind. The choice between alternatives. The current business environment is extremely dynamic and constantly evolving. In the current situation with a completely new and different business environment, the strategy and method that used to be effective in the past tend to be obsolete and redundant. Similarly, the resources that are currently accessible could not be there tomorrow or might not be adequate to meet future demands. Planning is all pervasive. For a goal oriented organization, planning as a management function permeates all other managing tasks. It would be incorrect to say that planning is only the first phase. Planning actually influences all managing functions, including organization and controlling. Furthermore, it is untrue to say that only top level management is responsible for planning. Planning is flexible. For an organization to be successful, it is crucial to establish synergies between opportunities and available resources, forecasting the growth opportunity and adapting the resources accordingly, thus provide a competitive advantage to an organization. Planning is the integrated process with the establishment of various policies, programs, and procedures, and organization established organization objectives that it aims to achieve under the planning process. When the organization establishes such objective and implement the innovations, it may encounter a difference of opinion among personnel or organization, particularly from those who are involved in the planning process. Necessity of planning process for an organization: ensure selection of optimum goals. The process of choosing the optimal course of action from a variety of available options is known as planning. It also involves deciding on a path of action that has a good possibility of being profitable, achievable, and economical, while rejecting alternative options that are less likely to do so. Manage complexities. A single organization functions as a result of a diverse set of people, resources with varying KSA, values, beliefs, cultures, and levels of motivation. It is inevitable to have a conflict between organizational and personal interests in such diverse world environment. When individuals in an organization work together to achieve shared organizational goals and their own personal goals, it is said that the organizational construct is effective. Planning is a means of guiding action towards goals. Survive environmental change. The business environment witnessed tremendous change now and then, from a conservative business model to democratic global business scenario has left the business houses to keep itself updated to meet changing demands with changing environment. Change in demand, change in technologies, fashion, preferences, social values significantly affect the organizational normal course of operation. Now, protection from failure. Unpredictable change in customers' tastes and preferences, cutthroat competition, rapid technological change, economical slowdown, political disturbances significantly affect the nation and so business houses. Sometimes these changes are so adverse that lead to the complete business failure. However, many organizations could not survive that radical change due to ineffective planning and faculty decision making. Unity of action. Since the organization works with joint efforts of an individual with different KSAs, thus their harmonious working is unnecessary towards accomplishment of organizational goals. This is possible with efficient planning that provides stake to employees to work jointly for organizational success. Types of planning: strategical planning, tactical planning, operational planning, requirement of types planning. Plans that are highly technical and address the competitive components of the organization are referred to as long term plans since they call for resource allocation over a considerable amount of time. Often 5 to 15 years, they can vary in terms of nature, breadth, complexity, and scale through and are typically ambitious. These plans are more vulnerable to unforeseen circumstances that could have a big impact on the company. Changes in customer behavior, government laws, and technical advancements all have a big impact on business and require senior management to pay close attention in order to create long term plans. Plans that are relatively detailed and specific and usually range between 2 and 5 years are medium term plans. These plans are operational as decisions like raw material purchase, overhead expenses, labor wage, production extra are taken. Though these decisions are also crucial to an organization, yet any flaw in planning would not result in senior failure, as it can be altered in 2 3 years. Similarly, in short term plans for about a year or so are more specific and deals with one day to day operations such as inventory management, employees training, extra. Now the third question is describe and discuss modern theories of leadership. What is the difference between successful and an effective leader? Explain with examples. Modern theories of leadership. Charismatic leadership theories, transformational leadership theory, servant leadership theory, authentic leadership, abusive leadership. Difference between successful and an effective leader. You can take a screenshot of these and can read it carefully about the theories. Now let's talk about the difference between successful and an effective leader. Leaders, attempts, leadership, follower, resultant behavior that should be successful or unsuccessful. One can determine whether A's effort to persuade B to perform a certain task in the following diagram was successful or not. A's attempt at leadership is successful if B completes the task because A is in the position of authority and controls the reward and punishment. If B only performs the task because of A's position of power and A's leadership style is incompatible with B's expectations and B becomes angry towards A, we might conclude that A has been successful but ineffective. B completes the task since A has the option of rewarding or punishing him for it. B's needs are not being met by achieving A's objectives. On the other hand, A's attempted leadership leads to a successful response and B does not job because he wants to do it and finds it rewarding. Then we may say A has both position power as well as personal power. B respects A. B is consistent with some personal goals and B sees personal goals as being accomplished by the job he does for A. We can then say A's leadership is effective. We should try to understand the difference between success and effectiveness. Success has to do with how the individual or the group behaves. Effectiveness describes the internal state or predisposition of an individual or a group and is thus attitudinal in nature. You may have observed that people who are motivated by success frequently highlight the positional authority. They closely monitor the work of their employees. They must exercise both personal authority and general oversight if they are to be effective. If one is aware of the fundamental acceptance of the superior by the subordinate, successful and effective people can be identified. Some teachers in the test room worry that if they leave the room for a long, the pupils would start copying and trading notes. Another type of teacher also leaves the test room, but the students never act differently. Now, the fourth question. Describe different types of managing decisions and the steps and the techniques used for the decision making. Discuss individual versus group decision making. Types of managing decisions. See how many types are there are 4 types of managing decisions. One is mechanistic decision, analytical decision, judgmental decision, adaptive decision. Now, steps in decision making. The first step is the phase of identification in which a problem or opportunity is identified and a diagnosis is made. It was discovered that lesser difficulties and more thorough systematic diagnosis than did severe acute concerns. The development phase in which current standard operating procedures, ready-made solutions, or the creations of a fresh individualized solution may be researched for. It was discovered that the decision makers' conceptions of the ideal solution were hazy and the design process consisted of grouping and trial and error. The selection phase, during which the choice of a solution is made, there are three types of making this selection by the judgment of the decision maker on the basis of experience or intuition rather than logical analysis, by analysis of the alternatives on a logical systematic basis, and by bargaining when the selection involves a group of decision makers. Once the decision is formally accepted and authorization is made. Techniques of decision making: identification of alternatives. We should firstly identify the alternatives, and then evaluation of alternatives, then selection of an alternative. First, what? Identify, evaluate, then select. Individual versus group decision making. What are the advantage and disadvantage of group decision making? Advantage: groups can accumulate more knowledge and facts. Disadvantage: groups often work more slowly than individuals. Advantage: groups have a broader perspective and consider the more alternative solutions. Group decision involves considerable compromise, which may lead to less than optimal decisions. Individuals who participate in decision are more satisfied with the decision and are more likely to support it. Disadvantages: groups are often dominated by one individual or small cliques, thereby negating many of the virtues of group procedures. Group decision processes serve in important communication functions as well as a useful political function. Over reliance on group decision and making can inhibit management's ability to act quickly and decisively when necessary. Describe the importance of organizational communication and the barriers to effective communication. How can organization take precautions to make communication effective? Discuss with examples. Importance of the organizational communication. According to the Peter Drucker, effective management begins with effective communication. In an organization, communication is essential for performing the managing task of organization, directing and managing. Planning must be grounded in reliable information in order to be realistic, which is impossible without an effective communication system in place inside an organization. The planners might not be informed of the most recent market trends, rendering their future plans completely useless. Without effective communication, adaptation to the external environment, which is essential to the company assistance, may not be achievable. Again, in order to reach the objective, it is necessary that leadership exercise decisions made efforts coordinated, people motivated, and operations controlled. Each of these functions involves interactions with the people in the organization and leads to communication. The important factor of organizational life for a manager is communication, and the success will depend upon how effectively one can communicate with others in the organization. In other words, how successful one can put ideas across to those who work with and thereby persuade others to work in the direction to the achievements of goals of the organization. Now, barriers to effective communication. One is semantic barrier, psychological barriers, organizational barriers. Only these three are there. Semantic barriers, psychological barriers, and organizational barriers. How can organizations take precautions to make communication effective? Use direct, simple language and avoid words which can have ambiguous meanings. When selecting words and phrases, bear in mind in the audience, the receiver, if the language you employ is appropriate for the audience you are trying to reach, your communication will be effective. The most profound statements throughout history have all been succinct and straightforward if you look back. The rock edict of Ashoka are similarly succinct and direct as the 10 commandments of Moses, which total only about 60 words. Use face to face communication. Face to face communication allows more accurate feedback to be achieved through two-way communication. Generally speaking, people express themselves more freely while talking rather than through writing. Face-to-face communication permits a managing to see and understand the non-verbal signs also. Use feedback. Feedback and enables the sender to judge whether his ideas have been received in the manner as they were originally intended. Most often, it is assumed that communication has taken place because a notice has been put on the notice board or an order issued. You must devise ways to separate fact from distortion. Listen with understanding. The incapacity to listen to another person with intelligence, knowledge, and skill is said to be the primary barrier to interpersonal connections. We frequently conflate hearing, a physical activity, with listening. Actually, listening involves understanding in addition to hearing. When the speaker's viewpoint and intent are fully heard and understood by the listener, true communication has occurred. But the majority bosses don't listen well. The main cause of poor listening skills, aside other factors, is difference between speaking and listening at different rates. Be careful about your non-verbal communication. Your gestures are noticed and felt by your subordinates since you have a higher standing than they do. As a result, your body language must support your verbal communication. You can communicate effectively by using your actions, which are more persuasive than words. Make sure your actions match your words if you want your communication to be productive. Thank you. It's all for today. Bye bye. Take care.